Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Moss Pawn and Gun, and we got another Gun Gripe episode for you today. We're finally back to doing a few gripes here in the shop. I know there for a while we were kind of doing them all over the place, but traditionally we like to do Gun Gripes here at the shop at Moss. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the sheep mentality and kind of what's involved in that. You know, you see a lot of stuff that gets put out by the mainstream media, gets put out by various resources, and they try to basically degrade gun owners. They try to make us, seem like we don't have any credibility as people just because we're gun owners. I mean, there's a lot of very hateful things that get put out there about gun ownership.
I mean, just as a general idea, I mean, all the stories that you see out there about gun crime or whatnot, or murders, this, that, and the other, it's always, kind of a bad thing, okay? You never see news about the millions of people that defend themselves every year with concealed carry permits, and they defend themselves out in public, they defend themselves at their home. I mean, you never see any mainstream news story about that, and that's for a reason. Yeah,
they're only going to report things that they can use to make gun owners look bad. They're never going to report the good side of it, and as a result, a lot of people tend to have sometimes a very negative view about firearms ownership as a general opinion, because they just believe everything they see and not really, what's going on, or they don't look at the complete picture. So part of that, and I guess the danger of that, is you become complacent. And when you become complacent, you become very sheepish as a person. And in society, when you become a sheep, you basically are just going to follow whoever, if like a lemming. If somebody says go jump off a cliff, what, are you going to jump off the cliff? No, you're going to question that supposed authority, and you're going to go, well, why? Why should we jump off the cliff?
Well, a lemming is going to jump off the cliff, but a civilized individual who's fairly intelligent will not.
Right, but the point is, when you have that complacency, and then you have that sheep mentality, then you have all of the ingredients that you need, per se, to create a victim. That's pretty much what you have is a recipe for disaster. So, you as a viewer, most of the people watching this channel are pro-gun folks, and, we even have some anti-gun folks that watch our channel just because they kind of want to get, I guess, a perspective of a bunch of dumb rednecks, or they think we're dumb rednecks.
Like they say, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. But oddly enough, we've had a lot of calls from anti-gunners out there that say, hey, I saw your video on such and such topic, and the point really hit home, because I had such and such happen to me or someone in my family, and it really drove the point home. Like, I really need to protect myself. And a lot of people have kind of converted their thinking, on the subject in general.
That sheep mentality is what we want to avoid, all right? So basically, what does that mean if you're a sheep? Well, the sheep mentality is the kind of person that says, oh, well, the cops will always be there to protect me. I don't need to own a gun because the cops are right around the corner.
Well, the cops aren't always right around the corner, and most police officers, if you look at statistics, they respond to crime. They respond to incidents that happen.
At that point, it's already happened.
Yes, they don't prevent crime. Now, there are a lot of occasions where there will be a uniformed officer, or a off-duty officer, or maybe someone who's undercover, or whatever,
or an armed civilian.
Yeah, or an armed civilian, but mainly like law enforcement, in a situation where they can prevent a crime, from occurring. But majority of the time, somebody calls 911, the cops and the fire department shows up, and they're responding to it.
They are responders, not. I mean, and when they can be proactive, obviously they want to be. I mean, of course, if you're a police officer and it's your job to prevent crime, then you'd love to prevent crime before it happens. But let's face it, in the real world, now we're shifting back to the real world. See, in the fantasy world, when you're a sheep and you have that mentality about gun ownership, you think that the cops are going to be everywhere where you need them to be, and you'll never need a gun because they'll always be there to protect you. That is a fantasy world. Even any cop worth their salt, and I hope that there's some police officers here that'll chime in the comments below, would recommend a civilian be armed, because an intelligent police officer who's been on the job long enough would tell you in a million years there's no way that a cop is going to be somewhere to protect you when you need them. And it's not that they don't want to be, or it's not that they don't have that desire, but there's just no physical way. You are not born with a bodyguard. You are your own bodyguard, and guess what? You're your family's guardians too. You got to protect your family.
In a lot of municipalities, there might only be one police officer per 1,000 of the populace. So you've got one cop per 1,000 people in some places, depending on the crime rate. Now, I mean, places where there's a lot more crime, obviously there'd be more cops, but there's still not enough to go around.
Yep.
There's not like a cop posted on every single corner or a security posted on every single corner. But, the big thing about it is, as a sheep, you just kind of go with the flow and you just don't want to be bothered
Do what you're
really.
told.
But, you just want to be fed all of your information. You don't want to go out and do research for yourself, to really, garner your own thoughts on a given situation or maybe, on guns or whatever the topic might be. You just kind of take all the information in. It's like, oh, well, I've got an opinion about that.
And it's face value because the media told you.
The media told you.
Right.
And two, you don't think you need guns, but then if something happens, you're calling somebody with a gun. There's a little bit of irony in that.
Right.
I
Well,
mean-
here's another good way to look at it. Back when we had this big, AR black rifle scare, there was I'm pretty sure
even
you
now.
guys have seen, well, even now, but
Yep.
I'm sure you guys have probably seen that one lady on TV who was like, oh, well, they're about to ban these guns and I got to get mine.
I gotta
I
get
got
mine.
mine though. I've got mine, so I don't have to worry about
Yep.
it. So see, it's that mentality, the I have it, so screw everyone else,
Well-
and the I don't want you to have it. And see, there's a danger in that. There's a danger in someone who is anti-gun but owns guns. Those are the worst ones because they want them to be able to have guns, but everyone else, no way.
Well, I mean,
they don't trust you, but they want to be armed.
I read
Those are
plenty of
dangerous
stories
people.
about our former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, in that she was staunchly anti-gun. Anybody who's watching this video should know that. If they've watched any news program or read any article on the gun debate at all, but she had her own private security detail. And do they carry, baseball bats? No, they carry guns.
Yeah.
She used to have a concealed weapons permit, and she got a lot of flack from her constituents about it, and she finally had to revoke it, just to save face, basically.
Yeah.
But how hypocritical is that? So
Yeah,
you don't
we're-
want us to have guns, but you're going to have a concealed weapons permit, and you want a gun to protect yourself.
Well, that's definitely getting off on a different vein.
Well, it is, but it's kind of in the same
But
thing.
it is kind of in the same thing because someone who, all right, think of that same person who's anti-gun that doesn't want you to own a gun. They likely, anyone you run into that is even marginally knowledgeable about guns that's anti-gun owns a gun. They just don't want you to own a gun. And that's the same person that if there's some disaster or something bad going on, that's the same person that on the street corner is going to be selling a case of water for $35.
Yep.
They're out to take advantage of others. And ultimately, if you don't want someone to be armed, you ultimately are trying to take advantage of that person. I mean, power is knowledge, and knowledge is also a very crucial part of it. Being informed about firearms laws, about what you can own, being knowledgeable of your local laws and how those firearms laws and those ordinances relate to you, and then taking that knowledge and arming yourself and being a responsible member of society that's armed and can protect themselves.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, the big AR scare a while back where ARs were flying off the shelves and everything after Sandy Hook and whatnot. I mean, you've had there's been some mass shootings, in the time after that, but
Sure.
Right now there's a big gun debate going on again because of the recent shootings like in Charleston and you had the recruitment center shootings up there in Tennessee, I believe, and
Yes.
maybe one more, but I can't recall. It's hard to keep up with them anymore, but I mean, the news crew. I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
And the bad thing is, there's video of it too. It's out there.
But they want to attack lawful gun owners, going through the proper process, and they want to bring up the expanded background check debate again. But he passed a background check. He bought a gun. He passed the check. So did anyone really question his motives? No, he didn't have any at the time.
And no one has to. I mean, that's just it. It's not a gun store's right to question someone's motives.
The big debate about background checks right now is like gun shows, the gun show loophole and whatnot. But the statistics just are not there to support that argument.
Yeah.
I mean, most criminals, if you look at any of the interviews that have ever occurred in the past with criminals that are jailed, you see that probably 90% of them get a gun through a relative. through their wife, through their girlfriend, through their dad,
or they steal it.
They steal it. They're going to be available to those who wish to do harm to others.
Well,
that's just the bottom line.
Another thing, not only about the data that he's mentioning, with the data not really backing up the severity. I mean, just like the punishment has to fit the crime, the law also has to fit the crime. And if there are how many millions of gun owners in the U.S. that own how many millions of guns, how many of those gun owners and those firearms commit crimes, those statistics just don't line up.
Okay,
it's like saying that you're going to ban cars because people get in wrecks all the time, and we should be more selective about who drives because cars kill way more people than guns. And I know that argument is beat home all the time, but from the perspective of, let's just say, this mentality, this sheeple mentality, which we're kind of trying to, we're derailing a bit, but staying on the subject of, of the sheeple mentality, is people sometimes just want to be governed. And some people fall into that mentality. They want to be told what to do. They want to be given laws, no matter how bogus, to follow, so that they can walk the right path. They need to be told that they can cross the street safely. They got to have, these big racks built around the crosswalks that go over the roads, and the taxpayers have to spend all this money to put all this infrastructure in place because little dummy or whoever might jump off and hurt himself or fall off. I mean, the bottom line is...
Sheeple can't be trusted.
Well, right, but the bottom line is they want to pull everybody into that category. They want you to be independent of them, or dependent of them rather, and they want to have that power on you, and they want you to want that power. We get the government we ask for.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, sheeple, if there's a governed group, of sheeple, then that's easy to control.
Yeah.
But people who are individuals and who are, what could be considered in the old days to be free thinkers and, riflemen, people who own guns, they use guns, and they will do whatever is necessary to protect not only themselves, their family, their community, their country even, depending on the circumstance. The powers that be do not like people like that.
Well, and also there's one thing I want to make clear in this video. We're certainly not saying that there just needs to be like complete anarchy or anything like that. While we're on the subject of anarchy, okay, we were talking about this earlier. So remember that figure we were talking about earlier, where there might be a place where 1,000 people have to rely on one police officer to every 1,000 people. So what's going to happen if there's, let's just say, let's not even go as far as like zombie apocalypse, but what if it's just a natural disaster? There's a bunch of bad stuff going on. The police are tied up. All of your first responders, your paramedics, and your firemen, and all of those folks are tied up dealing with stuff going on, and somebody wants to loot your house and steal everything you own. What are you going to do? Call the cops? They're going to say, yeah, join the club. Yeah. Because you're like the 30th caller we've gotten in the last 10 minutes. Yeah. Get in line.
And speaking of the cops, I just want to make it clear that, we do support uniformed officers.
You better believe it. Absolutely.
They've got a tough job to do, and they get a lot of scrutiny, and they get a lot of criticism all the time.
And they get a lot of damn threats too, and that's one thing that's got me pissed off too. And I don't want to get off on that vein, because that's kind of almost another video concept in itself. But I can't stand it when these guys get around and badmouth police officers on Facebook, and they threaten. Like recently, there was some stuff put out on Facebook by this guy up in Ferguson saying, "Oh, we're about to start shooting at the cops and stuff."
Not only that, there was
put your money where your mouth is.
There was a recent 911.
You're going to write that check. You got to cash it.
There was a recent 911 call to the Aurora, Colorado Police Department saying that they were just basically going to start shooting cops if they were found alone. Because you're evicting innocent people. All right, so a sheriff's officer's doing their job, and you're pissed off because you can't pay your rent or whatever. You're down on life. It's not their damn problem.
Yeah, or you're entitled to live there though. You don't have to pay rent.
Oh yeah, you're entitled to live there. That's a big problem with this sheeple mentality, is the entitlement mentality that is plaguing this country today.
It is.
And it really does need to change. And
the policemen have a hard enough job as it is. Like we mentioned, I mean, they don't want you to be a sheep. They don't want you to be a servant. They want you to be a free thinker, and they want you to make sound decisions. And guess what? When all of those things come together, what happens? You obey the law, you pay your taxes, you pay your bills, and you're a contributing member of society who does good things for others when he can and is charitable when he can be. And How hard is that?
Well,
that's all anyone wants of anybody else. It's just for people to be a contributing member of society.
I'll tell you one thing. Out of all the cops that we know, we've got a lot of cop friends and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest thing that they say helps them out is a gun-toting community and criminals that know that there are guns in the neighborhood,
yep.
and it makes their job a hell of a lot easier because those people try to avoid that area.
Yep, and I'll tell you one thing right now, when it comes to gun owners, and I know I've said this all the time, and if I write the check and I'm willing to cash it, I got the money to back it up, I'll back up what I say. Mm-hmm. If there's ever a situation where a cop needs my help, you better believe I'll be right there. And if it means pulling a patrol rifle out of my car and getting to work, I'll do it. And I guarantee you there's hundreds, if not thousands. I know this 3%er stuff gets thrown around, but I tell you, it's not even about all that. It's not even about calling yourself or titling yourself one thing or the other. But the bottom line is when you take that oath and you swear allegiance to the Constitution and to defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, you got to be willing to back that oath up. And that means helping your comrades that need help in a time of need. And it doesn't matter if it's civilian, the police, military. You better believe if there's a patrol car on the side of the road and the guy's getting shot at by some goober, I'm going to pull my rifle out and go to work. And that's and most people are gun owners. They have that mentality. They want to help when they can help, and they want to, fit in where they might be needed to be. I mean, being a contributing member of society sometimes means taking up arms and defending your people.
Yep.
And it happens. It happens.
No doubt about it. I mean, one of the main definitions of being a free person is being able to defend oneself, and to have the proper tools to defend oneself makes one free.
Yep.
And we live in a great country, and I consider myself, and my wife does too, to be born into this country and to raise my children in this country. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
And an armed person has to be reasoned with too.
They do.
Barry used to say it all the time. If you're armed, you got to be reasoned with. Now, the purpose of this video, we're going to kind of wrap things up a bit, but the purpose of this particular video wasn't to degrade anyone who might be in the sheeple mentality. You might like your news fed to you, and you might like to be told what to do. Some people need that structure in their life. Some people are a structure type of person. They don't like to make decisions. They don't like to think about things. They don't like to do research. And some people are just wired that way. I'm certainly not saying that it's this horrible thing. You can be that way if that's what you need. We're trying to say is keep your head on a swivel. And you need to kind of see what the big picture is and what that big picture is painted by, and all of the things that we put up with on a regular basis as people living in this country, in this crazy country. Yeah. You have to have your head on a swivel and have a little smarts about you. And sometimes you might need to think a little bit about a decision before you start calling yourself anti-gun. Think hard. You probably aren't anti-gun. You just have been fed a bunch of bogus crap.
Well, I mean, we're talking about sheeple. I mean, it's
but it's mainly firearms.
Obviously, we're talking about firearms in general. Right. But if I can give any advice to anybody out there, who might be in that kind of category, just pay attention to what's going on. Don't take everything for face value. Take everything with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Talk to folks who may have been involved in whatever circumstance it may have been. But and certainly don't listen to the big race baiting politicians and whatnot. This country is full of diverse people. And the last thing we need is a bunch of crazy race relations going on. I mean, it's mainly between sane people and just silly people more than anything else.
Yeah. You're going to have a few bad apples in every batch, no matter what group of folks that you necessarily hail from. Okay, I mean that happens. I mean, society's full of some crazies, and society's full of good people. You just got to.
The thing is, the way that I see it right now, the powers that be, they want a bunch of tension going on in this country right now, and people out there, just keep your head straight and just do research for yourself and garner your own opinions about things. Don't listen to what the powers that be tell you, because that's going to put us down the wrong path.
Well, also look at it like this. Okay, maybe you are some anti-gun person, or maybe you do think that we're just full of crap. Arm yourself, if anything, just for the sake of leveling the playing field against people like us.
Arm yourself with knowledge.
I would not stand here and tell someone not to do that. Everyone should be armed, even if you don't want someone else to be armed. I mean, it's kind of weird to think about it like that. I mean, you would think that if someone's going to be a sheep about it, I should just let them, right? Well, no, I don't want my countrymen being hurt. I don't give a crap what background somebody comes from. If they're a member of this country, you want to make the people around you better through your actions. I mean, that's like what Gandhi said, right? You know, you be the change in the world you want to see. If you want everyone to own guns and be squared away people, then guess what? You need to put that out in your everyday actions, and you need to expect that of the people around you. And
that is another gun gripe in itself.
it is.
Right there.
Maybe we can get on that later. But guys, I appreciate you watching today's video. We're definitely going to try to get more gun gripes out. I know some of these videos tend to kind of tug at the strings sometime with people, and they don't, you know, so every now and then I'll get some hate emails and some hate comments. But look, guys, you got to think hard about what's going on, and you got to sometimes you want to stir the pot, and I'm not saying that these videos are ever intending to stir the pot, but if they make you think a little bit, and it might give you a little bit of food for thought,
then the pot's been stirred.
The pot's been stirred, okay. You know, and it just, you know, we throw a bunch of things in there and mix it up a bit and just take a stir and see what rises to the top.
And remember, guys, you know, we don't rehearse these videos. We just come up with an idea and say, let's talk about that. And I mean, you're hearing our direct thoughts. You know, we didn't talk about this before today. We worked all day in the store today, you know, helping people out all day long, working on guns and everything else. So, I mean, these are our fresh thoughts.
So look, what do you think? You know, you guys leave your comments and suggestions below. Do you have an idea for a gun gripe, something you think we should talk about? Is there something crazy going on in your community? You know, for those of you that don't know, again, you know, gun gripes is basically we kind of give our thoughts on a general subject, and we generally kind of get off track a lot, but the basic idea is kind of there, and we beat around it a little bit there. But generally, we kind of talk about things that are on our mind related to firearms, and then also things that are going on in the 2A world that are very important, like, you know, pending legislation that might be coming through, or things that are even going on overseas that we'll be talking about as well. So if you like this concept, I know we haven't really done any new gun gripes in a while. We appreciate you subscribing. We're going to try to put out one every couple of weeks. It's kind of hard. We used to put gun gripes out every week. We can't put gripes out that often quite anymore. We've been posting new videos, anything from range reviews, firearms facts, gun gripes, all the different things we do about every 2 to 3 days, which is a pretty frequent amount to post for a channel like ours. It puts out the amount of content we do and the quality of the content that we do. So I can't promise gun gripes every 2 weeks, but we're going to try our best to get you a couple every few weeks or so. So just expect those in your subscription
box. And expect, you know, if there's something really crazy going on, you know, in the Second Amendment world, then, you know, most likely we're going to have something out, even if it's not here in the shop. So.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate you watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you next time. Be sure to subscribe. Like us over on Facebook, where we're always posting all kind of random photos and commentary. Also, check out our man cam videos. Really cool little product that we sell to, you know, for people to help support the channel. If that's something you're interested in, check it out. Might be something you're interested in doing.
Well, and also, you know, check out Instagram. You know, both Brandy and I post a bunch of stuff on Instagram all the time. So you know,
I don't have an Instagram.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, his wife does, and I do. So look down below in the description box. You'll find that link there.
Absolutely.
So, oh, and Ray too. And he's waving at us over there.
Yeah, we're always posting
too.
random stuff. Thanks, guys. I didn't want this video to be too long, but I appreciate you watching. We'll catch you next time.
Take it easy.